for
Okay.
taking the time to join us this evening.
Yeah, no, it gives me something else to think about, so I'm glad we could do this. Is Mike Foley not there yet?
Mike Foley's not here, Seth isn't here.
Okay, so, cause Mike had our meeting minutes, so, we're gonna probably pass over that for now.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I don't have the agenda right in front of me,
Review,
So-
it's review of site visits, information only, starting with Paxton, Carrie.
Thank you, Heather. So, did anyone print out my notes from the, shared drive?
I did.
All right, Ryan.
So, we actually this week were able to visit Paxton, Ashby, and Mike and I, just after we left, Ashby, we pulled into Ashburnham and were able to view that, facility as well. So, what I did was I pulled everything together into some categories so that we weren't individually going through each facility based upon what all of these people said to us. So Mike, I'm gonna ask you to just, don't be afraid to chime in
Sure.
when I'm okay. So what I did was I went through and said, so key factors, and things that we've been discussing as well, so lobby areas, meeting room and other spaces, shared spaces, and budgets, upkeep, and, there's a few things with some septic and water that, I was thinking we should probably go over that Paxton has had some issues with, as well as I think Ashby was talking about a few things, and Mike, I'm hoping you can help me with this. I was trying to remember exactly what was said
visits or something.
in relation to the septic, the way it leaches to the front
She had the questions.
Yeah,
in Ashby. Okay,
yeah, they have water intrusion into their stormwater collection system, is
It was on my computer.
into their sanitary system, actually.
Do you want to just make a copy of this?
Yep. Thank you. Carrie, I'm making everybody
Um,
copies so that they are aware of what we're talking about.
okay, thank you, Nate.
How you doing, Carrie?
I'm all right, hanging in.
Okay.
And I apologize, I did do this morning. This has been going on with my dad since last week, Monday, so we've had a snowball, and I just had a chance this morning to really lay this out. So I apologize if there's not full sentences, but it's just easier for everyone to look at while we're going through it.
I went through it earlier and it looks like you did a good job.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was thinking also due to timing, for this particular meeting, that, maybe write questions on the side of this as we're going through it, and then we can do one kind of Q&A at the end, because I'm afraid if we start getting into multiple conversations, we'll never finish parts of the meeting. So is that agreeable to everybody?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay. So, the one thing I think we're noticing as we're going through some of these facilities is the lobby areas are all very different in each facility we're going into. But I think, when we get to that planning part, we need to know what the purpose of our lobby area is gonna be. Anticipated visitors, if any at all, and that would be between, both chiefs, figuring out, like, right now, what do they tend to get for traffic into their individual, locations. Ashby was really good when they talked about this, so they said that, majority of their walk-ins are for the police, Any fire walk-ins they get are generally for burning permits. In Ashby, the lieutenant for the fire department does sit at the window desk, for that department. And when we went to Ashburnham, it's a full dispatch center, so when you walk in, that's who greets you, and then you've got the fire on one side and police on the other. Now, that is a huge facility, this is not anywhere near what we can do, but, this is kind of the first impression people are gonna get, so, Ashby also talked about that the lobby is so loud, they can hear everything through the entire first sections of the building, they hear everything, the police chief, the fire chief hears it, the meeting room hears it, you can hear everything that's happening. So insulation was a huge factor for some of them as far as like what people can hear. Paxton, he said they tend to get a lot of walk-in traffic, and Ashby gets a good amount of walk-in, kind of like random type traffic. Is that, how they kind of put it, like people will be driving and stop to ask different questions.
Yeah.
They have somebody stationed.
Yeah, yes, in addition to the large load, the fire permits, it's just general walk-in traffic that, and they've got it set up so that, you know, if they need the police, a detective or a policeman, you know, there's a desk there that, I guess she's the admin clerk, and she kind of manages the traffic and sends them where they need to go, even though that position is really for the chief to handle, you know, that part of the operation, the admin operation. But, you know, that's how they work it out. They have kind of a dysfunctional lobby, in my mind, the way it was laid out.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's, you know, who gets stationed in that area? Is someone stationed in that area? Is there somebody now? I honestly haven't been dropped by the police station in a long time, so I don't know who greets you there. If that person would still be there, if a new building was to be built, but that might be a potential cost consideration, so I did put it in there just in case. It's funny, because these newer facilities that have been built, they all do have some sort of those meeting rooms, and regardless of what it's used for, it is best to have like a separate entrance, especially if you are considering that the public is gonna come in to use that facility, because then they don't have to have access to the lobby, and they can get right in through, whether it be a code or something, that they can get into a separate side door. Ashburnham is like that. Ashby did not have a separate outside door, but wait, Mike, am I confusing myself?
Nope, you got it right on.
Okay. Many of them were using them for multi-purpose, for emergency management. However, Ashburnham uses the high school for all of their emergency management stuff, so they do not use that meeting room. Ashby's meeting room actually has a partition through it, so if you needed to separate it into 2 rooms, you could. I mean, Ashburnham does. There's really a big benefit, as we talked last week, to having larger seating in a meeting room for the trainings. Ashby actually alluded to the fact, because theirs got cut back from 50 to 12 seats, and their feeling was that in doing so, they're spending money now on training their people and their officers, and in the long run, that's gonna cost more than what it costs them to cut that room back. So that's also a consideration. In all cases, police and fire generally determine the availability of those rooms to outside public meetings. I think I went over that next part. think, Mike, in relation to the meeting rooms, is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I guess I will just say that as a comment from looking at the different alternatives, the situations we saw, you know, almost treating a general purpose room as a separate building, even though it's incorporated, so that you could have public restrooms, you have separate access, that it doesn't affect fire or police, their operations. So, you know, even though it's an integrated room as part of the building envelope, you set it up so that it doesn't interfere, but you guys can use it.
Right.
You know, you'd have access to it and would control the scheduling of it, because the priority would be the public safety,
Right.
you know, occupants of the building.
And Mike, you did ask the question, how often are your meeting rooms used? And I think we got pretty much like 2 times a month.
It was,
Really what it boiled.
it was pretty infrequent.
I think it also depends on what you use it for.
Exactly.
You mean used for departmental use or used in general?
I think it was used for the public safety function, so
Okay,
police
yeah.
and fire,
That's about right.
Yep.
which
So
I'll
Paxton-
I'll hold my comment. I have a note, I have a comment on that for later on.
Okay, in Paxton, he did tell me that, they were originally supposed to use part of their meeting room or the meeting room for, town meetings, not town meetings, but town committee meetings, select board and that kind of thing, but the town they went back on it. And then I think recently somebody has said, you know, we were supposed to be able to use these rooms, so, and I think they're trying to get a better relationship with the town, so, the select board is now starting to use meetings there. But they are, at this time, they aren't giving it out to like a Boy Scout troop or things like that, they're just letting town committees use the space. In relation to like other spaces, they all were really, I think what we're noticing is they're so individual to just department needs, so like what the police chief really needs and what the fire chief really needs. And there are places where I think Ashby did an amazing job of combining a lot of those together. And if, for me, and I don't know about you, Mike, but that facility probably mirrors or matches more of what we would be looking to do in our town.
Concur.
The size of it, the layout of it, what you both have talked to us about your needs would be. It's nicely contained, and it's not huge, it's not overwhelming. And I mean, they just moved in there, so they really can't talk about growing pains at this point, but, the police, they used to have a trailer, that's what they worked out of. So for them, this is like great for them. They don't know any different at this point, so, but the space is really well designed. I mean, I was hoping if we had time, we could pull up that plan, on the public safety building, their website.
If you just Google Ashby Public Safety Building.
So,
committee, it's like the first link.
you know, in the sleeping areas, and I know Chief Hayes, you talked about, you just need the one room, but so if you do it right and you have growing pains and you have additional people or at some point need additional people, the room can be built or set up so that you can add additional cots, or bunks, so that people can continue to grow your department. So, Paxton especially has, Ashby did a great job with their proposal to the town, their website, their public building, safety building website is amazing. They had question and Q&As and, whatnot, so. So there's really not a lot of deviation from this proposed new construction, sample that's here. And what was nice about what they did was they put in place things they could do, and then if they couldn't do it, they kind of took them out. They were easy fixes.
Did he happen to mention while you were there what he thought worked in terms of getting the people to a yes? Because they had 3, if not 4, failed attempts at this before getting the building.
Yeah, and so we didn't, for this particular site, Mike, I don't think we actually got that far with them because we were talking about so many other things at the time. But the chairman of their committee is willing to come in and talk with us and tell us what they did and how they did it and how they got it to pass. And I just thought that would be a great thing for him to come in and do with us, so that we could mirror some of what they've done. I mean, I personally, in reading all of their information, I think the way they presented it and the way they did a Q&A with the people in the town, they opened it up for discussion, similar to what we've talked about. And Nate, I think they kept it the way you want us to keep it, so that we're not letting everybody just talk to talk. You know, they really kept it very straightforward, and this is what we're gonna talk about, and they had an answer for everything people asked. And it is on the website when you look up Public Safety Building Ashby, it's right there on the website. All the Q&A answers are right online. People could submit an answer somewhere, so instead of doing a survey, people could just submit, their question. You guys will just have to read me a little bit, because I haven't eaten and my head's a little loopy right now, but if I'm not making sense.
You're good.
Nate, could we go back to the actual site for a minute? Like their actual website
Oh, yeah.
outside of their drive. So if you go down, if you go to the, see this section here, Public Safety Building Q&A?
Oh, that's cool.
Right, I thought it was pretty impressive.
40
There's our
40
answer.
years is steep, though. Like, I'm this is a little ways down the road, but I'm hesitant to do a 40-year loan just because after 25 years you're fixing some pretty substantial things. I get it's the only way to
And
make it affordable.
I
but-
guess the question for the chairman is to ask, like, what, did they have to go 40 years in order to make it more appealing to the town? Was that how they got it to pass? I don't know that we're gonna get that explanation here.
Yeah.
I think the way they set it up is really good, really helpful for voters to be able to access it and
Yeah.
ask questions and get answers, and not just assume something, so.
Right. So I personally think, Nate, that this is one of the reasons they were able to get it to pass. I think people felt like everything was transparent and they got all the information they needed.
That is one of our main objectives as well. So.
and that was a $6,000 building.
But didn't they add on to the existing fire station? So,
They,
Kept the bays, I believe, right? Yeah.
That's correct.
so even if we did the exact same thing as them, it's gonna cost us more because we don't already have an existing structure in play.
Correct.
Yeah, they built this part.
Yeah,
I would think significantly more.
I mean, they might have redone some
yes,
work
but
on
they
it, but.
did
Yeah, they
add,
rehab some stuff in that
they did
station.
add additional bays that were technically supposed to be for the fire department, and, again, might chime in, but they weren't long enough, so they couldn't fit some of them in, and they had to use the part of the original firehouse, that they had.
Yes, that's correct.
And I
So
never,
these two that were built as part of the building were supposed to be for fire, and they couldn't fit the trucks. Something about the way the stairs were, or the ramp, was too close to where the truck would be, stationary.
That's correct, and we're getting into some specific weeds here a little bit, and I think I can explain that later on from a more generic approach. Because I saw a lot of, this may not be the right word, dysfunctionality in space and layout. That seeing the major differences in the various sites tells me that, you know, whatever the designer, architect, engineer firm was, sort of led that kind of thing with some input, but without enough experience behind how these things actually work and where to save construction costs.
I mean, they did lose part of their meeting room to save some money. I honestly, once the final was done, Mike, I didn't hear them talk about losing much more than that, other than that meeting space.
That's the way I remember it also.
They did not do solar, but now are looking at doing solar. So that's something too, they said it's probably better to put solar on while you're in the process of construction, or anticipating that you're gonna do that. The shared space in this facility is done really well. Like they have a very small day room with a table and like a kitchenette, and then a TV and a couch that both the police and the fire department share. The way the building works, to kind of wrap each, the fire department's on the, the left, and the police are on the right, and they wrap around in the back a little bit, kind of meet up, and it's very well contained. The chief's office, the lieutenant's office, and they had 2 overnight rooms that only had 1 bed each in them, and then showers off to the side. And it was just, I think, pretty much the amount of space you were talking about, Bob, about all what your needs would be for that, so.
a male and female, what do you call it? Not changing room.
Locker room.
room?
Yeah. And he did say that, and Mike, I can't remember if it was Ashburnham or Ashby, but they did say, like, the females are usually like, no, it's fine, we'll just, but I think they really feel as though there should be separate area.
I think you can run into a lot of problems not having a separate area.
I think you're gonna run
Right.
into a lot of problems if you don't, I think you just have to have separate changing
Right,
stalls,
you
separate
just-
everything now, because you have to be able to allow someone to identify whatever gender they want, or want's the wrong word, that they feel comfortable
Comfortable.
with, thank you, and that may not fit either of those criteria, so then you end up with a third.
Right.
So it's just better to isolate so they can all be individually utilized. Like in the floor plan I was looking, it looks like there's a shower entrance and a lab entrance on both sides, but it looks like there are, 4 individual things. It's not like men's room, ladies' room, unidentified room.
Yeah, and I don't, Mike, I don't think anything was specifically labeled there as specific locker rooms, do you remember?
I mean, whether they were or not, that's a matter of just signage, so, it's easily.
Right, but what,
it's- Go ahead.
yes, so I think what you're saying, Heather, is what they were trying to accomplish, but I'm not sure if I'm not sure everybody's comfortable with that, everybody sharing that space like that. Does that make sense? Like,
I think you just make individual little mini rooms.
Yeah.
And then you have 4 mini individual rooms to use as storage or throw in cots, and then everyone can be in their own space and you don't have to worry about it.
right.
So which one
And
would you
again,
say was your
these are just
favorite?
their comments, they're not reflective of what we felt or thought, it's just, these are the comments they're giving us in relation to, considering things we wanna do.
Did the chairman of the Public Safety Building Committee give you a date?
He said September, so to let him know what our next meeting dates would be, and he would let me know what he was available for.
So, are we at that point where we're now asking general questions, Carrie?
Yeah, I mean, I think verbally I've gone over a lot of this stuff, and I think everybody could probably read through, and then, go through their questions.
Oh, good.
You're
So, yeah,
about
let's-
25 minutes early,
We
so.
have 10 more
Oh, you want a
minutes,
meeting?
right?
I'll come back.
You can come. It's a,
I think
we're talking about public safety buildings.
I'll sit over here.
Alright. That's an open meeting.
Carrie, Peter just joined us. Overly excited. I guess my first question, Carrie, would be on, so with regards to solar, just, I know you mentioned this a little bit, but Ashburnham, they actually put the solar above the carport area,
Correct.
and they built that in. Other towns like Paxton, Ashburnham also has a municipal light plan, Paxton does as well, but Paxton's problem is the municipal light plan is not going to allow, I think, an accommodation of additional solar, so because it didn't happen when there was space, they now may be SOL. We don't have that issue because we don't have a muni, but we do have our own pieces we have to navigate. My other question, so knowing that dispatch is a thing that, now is going to the regional end and we don't have a dispatch in the house, and even if we ever divorce from Rutland, we're probably still not gonna get dispatch in the house, so
We'd
we
be
don't
in
have
another regional agreement.
exactly with someone who can accommodate us. That being said, I know part of the reason they have a lot of the foot traffic in Paxton is because people are heading down to Worcester to the hospital. So that's why they get a lot of people stopping in. They get a lot of medicals right at where dispatch used to be at the lobby, because people apparently, I think someone made a comment that if we put like a walk-in emergency clinic there, sponsored by the town, we'd bring in all the revenue, because
Right,
people
yeah.
would just stop there from Barry, everything else. But we don't see that in Hubbardston, right? We don't,
I do probably like once a year, somebody will stop at that other station.
yeah, but not,
Center, no.
not common, because they're gonna go to Gardner. If it's that much of an emergency, because that's the closest hospital. Or if they really wanna wait, they'll wait to get to Worcester. Right?
Yeah, I still don't know the point. We have walk-ins all the time for all kinds of stuff on a regular basis. On a daily basis, somebody's coming into the station for something. Because if you don't know anything, or if you have a question, you go ask a firefighter.
That's
So-
true. I guess what I'm saying though is a lot of their traffic isn't so much someone has a question, it's literally a medical that they don't think they can wait to get to the emergency room
Right.
Yeah.
for, so they're using the lobby area as their quasi-emergency room. So I don't think we have
Yeah, I don't-
that need.
they're just gonna bring the stretcher into there, just like scoop them up and take them out to the ambulance. That's the only difference there. It's just that it happens more frequently for them. Where us, we're in two different stations, they see the station in the center. Actually, at 48 Gardner Road, if people know it's there, we've had walk-ins there too. So you pull the ambulance out, you put them on the stretcher, and you put them in. So it has nothing really to do with what the station is.
So what do you guys need for a lobby space? Cause you don't, you know, like Paxton, the dispatch center was there before the dispatch center was gone, so now they have a space that's not being utilized for that. Ashburnham's the only one in the area is currently
Has a
using
dispatch
dispatch.
I mean, right now, like, for us, Nancy's in there so she takes the walk-ins for firearms and things like that.
8 to
when
4.
she's there. It would probably be beneficial to have a full-time person in there for both of us, but, I mean, that's probably another conversation.
Yeah, so,
for
yeah,
another
we don't
time,
have
but-
anybody, but
That's
at
where the
48
admin
Gardner
should
Road,
go.
the first office is the captain's office. So if you walk in, it's right there, he's there, he greets the people. If he's not there, then it's my office was right there out in the front. But I think, yeah, we had talked about, and I thought it was a good idea, you would have somebody in that lobby that would direct, if it's police, fire, into the station.
And it probably wouldn't have to be as large of a lobby area as some of the other places. I mean, our lobby in here is pretty small, but if, at least allow somebody to get in there and either, if somebody's not working, to push a button that rings at dispatch, and then they can actually talk to somebody. Or if the admin's on duty, then they can just, there's a window there where the admin can talk to them and direct them where they need to go. I mean, I think a lot of our walk-in traffic now, we get it because we're attached to the town offices and people just take the opportunity while they're in there. They wouldn't necessarily come down there if they weren't here already. We get that a lot too.
Yeah, at some point too, I mean, years we haven't had a administrative assistant in the fire department. When I took over, my captain volunteered for it. He gets a stipend of $2,500. He's excellent at what he does. He does payroll, billing, everything. When he makes a mistake, the girls down here go, oh, it must have been, well, maybe not these guys, but the ones before, would be like, it must be us because it isn't Troy. He's not going to be there forever. So we're going to need an administrative assistant at some point, and having that joint police fire, I think it would be almost a full-time position there.
Yes, right.
So, and the idea of having somebody in a lobby where they come in, meet the administrative assistant, and then they direct you where you go, I think is a great idea.
Thank you.
So, we have about 5 minutes before we have to cut this one short, because we do abut a select board meeting. So my apologies, Madam Chair. We thank
That's
you
okay.
for zooming in. I know this was a unexpected situation with your father, so thank you very much.
So I think we should determine the date for the next meeting.
Also, just for the good of the order, I can't remember if I emailed you all. I placed a bunch of feasibility studies from other communities into the Google Drive. So-
I didn't see those when I was looking, but I'll go back and look. I just missed it.
Give those a quick review at some point.
I did start looking through some of those,
It's a lot of documentation.
It was a lot.
And
It
it's
was
a
a
pretty
lot.
dry read.
it's a lot.
Perfect.
Mike?
Yeah, seeing we have a couple minutes, I want to plant this seed early and often. Ones that, several places mentioned about these training rooms, and I'm going to play devil's advocate pretty aggressively. If all of the towns build large enough training rooms, we're going to be competing with each other. You know, we should search out some place that has an adequately sized place. And now, if you build a larger space, then you have to, you know, maintain that space. And when they say that they thought the cost would eventually be recouped, well, they had no numbers to justify that. These are people that are thinking that that's what the case is, but we really don't have any real basis for making that judgment or drawing that conclusion. The other thing is on storage. Everybody said more storage. Well, I will say, and the guy admitted in Ashburnham, that effective use of storage was more their issue, not having enough storage. So have the right storage in the right place. Ashby had these really narrow, long, not very deep closets. Screw those. They're expensive to build. They weren't functional. I would propose that when you talk about storage, have a bigger generic storage place. Fire can have one wall with storage cabinets that lock. Police can have the other wall. These are like for office supplies and things that aren't specific to your particular needs. And put it in the middle where there's joint access to it. Too much storage space in the wrong place, like in the high bays. These vehicles are pretty much ready to go, ready to be driven off. They don't need a lot of storage space in the high bays, and the more storage space you put in the high bays, the more your construction costs are, your maintenance costs and your utility costs that you're paying from day one on. If you can have cold storage, that would be better for things that don't need to be inside. You know, and this is just a generic comment, general comment. Obviously, you both have equipment that have special needs, but when I see a bunch of just stuff, like cleaning supplies and general, you know, when I say not construction, but you know, mechanical stuff and whatnot, if it doesn't need to be in a high bay or specialized police space, try and get co-use and move it out of the high-cost maintenance in areas that are high for utilities. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Welcome to his TED Talk.
I've been here before.
Yeah.
So with those points noted, Carrie, I think we're looking for the next date.
Yes,
Yes.
there it is, 6:15. Right on
On the
schedule.
nose.
While she looks, Chief, and we can talk about this in another meeting, would you want some sort of full-blown decon area of the garage?
Probably need that.
Yeah, I think there's some version of it.
Yeah. Because that's what, when I was looking at them in Princeton, that was some of the cooler things that I was able to see, the way they were implementing that into kind of a area that pulled out of the Bay Area and became what it was needed for, when
Do
it
you,
was
do
needed.
you think we could, I can't hear you guys, so I'm not sure why, but, do you think we could try to pick the next 2 dates so I can give this other gentleman a couple of dates to work with to come meet with us?
Yep.
So, I mean, Mondays have been working out, it's just, this makes it tight for us to really, I think, have, not a 2-hour meeting, but, be able to, I think, get through the meat of what we're talking about. Is it, I don't know if there's a different time or alternating with Mondays.
I'd say just throw some ideas out there and then we can.
We can also just, what might be easier at this point, Carrie, because there's Labor Day coming out, back to school and so forth for people. Nate could probably
Yeah.
maybe do a doodle poll, work
Yep.
with you, see what works, and then
Yeah.
send it out, and we can all opine as to which
Perfect.
ones work.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah, that'd be easier.
With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Thank you, Carrie.
all right, we are adjourned, thank you, thanks for plugging me in.